Hello and welcome to another episode of All Elite Arcade, your place for discussions here at AEW Games. It's Monday. It's a brand new week. Me and the Chugs have been playing a whole lot of video games. Chugs, how you been doing?
I've been doing great. Like you said, I have definitely been playing my fair share amount of video games this week. It actually was a very, very busy week, but I know I mentioned this last week. I've been committed lately to bringing my Nintendo Switch on the road with me because I'm determined to finish Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and I'm in the final area of that game. So just to reiterate once again, I know I talked about this last time, but the level design, all the different power-ups that you can get, the maps are so cool to the point where I think I'm close to the end, but I know there's more like special world levels that I have to do. And let me tell you, Uno, some of these challenges, especially the optional ones, are tough. Like there's a lot of different gameplay mechanics between like gliding and being able to jump a little bit higher than normal or just running at full speed just when you push the run button. It's really, really wild. But the bosses are cool. The levels are cool. I think by this time next week, I will have beaten Super Mario Bros. Wonder, so I'll give you a review. But so far, it's been probably my favorite 2D Mario since Super Mario World.
Really?
I love Wonder. Absolutely love it.
Super Mario World might be one of my favorite games of all time when you're thinking about it. And Wonder's a very understated part of Wonder is that it has a great soundtrack too. Like as you're playing through, Nintendo has always rocked when it comes to Mario games. I feel like no Mario game comes out without incredible music, and Wonder was like very good. And there's a ton of different levels, so there's a ton of different tunes as well.
Yeah, and fortunately on the Nintendo Music app, they did add the Super Mario Bros. Wonder soundtrack, which is great. So I can listen to it as many times as I want. But
I just remembered, I got to go finish my playlist. I was in the middle of making that. We even teased it here on the show.
I know. But yeah, it's great. And like you said too, I just want to mention as well, I think Super Mario World, I go back and play that game at least once a year. I love that game so much. And again, randomly bringing up Super Mario Maker 2 because I was watching some footage of that earlier today. The levels that people make with the Mario World aesthetic is so cool. But yeah, so in addition to playing that off stream, because once again, I have the 5-game cycle that I'm going through, made a little bit more progress in Dark Souls 2, which is awesome. It was like a 4-hour stream. I'm now almost done, or I beat a really tough boss in the Iron Keep, known as the Smelter Demon. So he's a challenging area, or he's a challenging boss. That area is really kind of a skill check area for Dark Souls 2. But speaking of skill checks, Uno, I am continuing with Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
Ooh, you were talking this up all year.
Yes. Amazing game. Very cool areas. The voice acting, so good. The boss fights are amazing. But I will say, I think this is maybe the most challenging Metroidvania that I've ever played.
Really?
Ever played.
Above Dread, above Hollow Knight Late is so challenging too.
Hollow Knight Late is very, very tough. But yeah, to me, it's, first of all, there are so many different areas to go, which again is one of the awesome things about Metroidvanias. But like remembering all the different mechanics that you have, it could be partially because I'm playing through 5 games. And then when I get back to playing Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, that I'm kind of trying to remember.
You're like losing that muscle memory a little bit.
Yeah. But dude, the platforming is so challenging, but so awesome and so rewarding. But even more so than that, like the boss fights, unbelievably epic. So cool. But your reaction time and your memorization of all the mechanics like needs to be present or you're not going to beat these bosses. Again, I can tell that when I finally get through this game with different bosses in different areas, it's going to be so rewarding. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's tough, Uno. It's been really, really challenging for me.
And do you feel, how far into it do you think you are? Like
I think I'm maybe 40%.
Really? Okay, so
I'm guessing.
So there's a good amount of challenge still left to go, probably. Because if you're only midway, it's only going to get worse, I would assume. Well, worse, 100%. Harder. Let's not say worse, because it is genuine. It's good. It's a good game.
Sure, it's really, really good. Real Ubisoft just crushed it. But that's the interesting thing, though, too. And I kind of felt this way about Nine Souls as well. Is the cool thing about this game is in the very beginning, I was just getting crushed.
Yes.
Then I started to figure out those mechanics, and I started doing really, really well. and then a new challenge approaches, and then you go through the same process where you're struggling a little bit, and then you overcome it. Nine Souls, very, very similar. So, but yeah, an excellent game. I can't wait to continue and beat this game. The challenge is there, but as a game as a whole and the story, it's incredible. It's one of the best, definitely top 5 Metroidvanias I've ever played, I think.
I'd be curious to know, because both this game and Nine Souls, while incredible games and also right in our wheelhouse, or wheelwell, whatever it is, right into our wheelhouse, have not gotten that much noise about them this year. And I wonder if like that difficulty is part of it, or if it's really just this game is so big in large releases that they just took like they took the backseat to whatever came out at the same time.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I wonder too, again, as far as I know, Hollow Knight is adored and so many people have played it, but I wonder if generally speaking, the casual gaming audience does play Metroidvanias. Like I really don't know how many people play them. I love them. We love them.
Yes.
They're so good.
They might be my favorite type of game ever.
I think so too. Yeah. And Hollow Knight, of course, is the game that made me fall in love with Metroidvanias and then go back and play all these amazing games. I know I've mentioned this before, but since we're talking about Metroidvanias, I can't recommend this enough. I've said it before, but if you're listening and you have not played Ender Lilies, please play it.
Yes, and on his recommendation, I played it as well all the way through. It's really freaking good. And also very different from, because Hollow Knight, for example, is very exploratory and it is very combat focused, but you can add a little spice, but you're playing it one way mostly. Ender Lilies, there's so many different weaponry. You can really change your run multiple times through it and really evolve each run to make it even stronger. So you could have a different set of weapons that has different set of skills. They all have different timings. It's very much more like I hate to say it because like a lot of people use this term for all games, and it at this point doesn't mean anything. But it's Dark Souls like in the sense that Dark Souls, you can really approach it with your gear and your timing in mind. Ender Lilies is very much like that. It's an incredible game, great music, and a very sad story too.
Such good music and so sad. But yeah, speaking of great soundtracks, Ender Lilies has an amazing soundtrack. And I love too the mechanic of the combat, where again, you are playing as a little girl, and these spirits are the things that are helping you fight. And the little girl, as the spirit attacks like in front of you, kind of cowers back as whichever spirit you're using attacks the enemies. It's just a really, really cool concept, a really cool idea. And yes, very sad story. But also, again, you really have to dig to find exactly what's going on, which is also Souls-like.
That's part of the fun too. Game. It's like reading into the text, going through and like connecting one person's story to another, and then realize like they don't tell you what goes on. You kind of have to just piece together from the little pieces that you read, and then start making like context clues. You're like, oh shit, okay, is that what's going on here? I really enjoyed it, and it's not too long. Surprisingly, it's like under 20 hours for sure.
Yeah, not too bad at all. And on top of that, I believe very, very soon in 2025, the sequel Ender Magnolia is going to be coming out. So definitely going to be playing that.
I'll put that on the list of things I'm excited for already.
Yeah. But as we went off on a tangent about Metroidvanias, again, shout out to Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. You're an amazing game, and you were so difficult. But yeah, the 5-game cycle, and like I said, very, very close to beating Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Of course, I've been opening packs. I've been opening packs every day.
I haven't had a new card in 7 packs now, and I'm itching. Like I'm so close to just purchasing gold just to get more packs, but I'm at that point now where I think I only have 25 cards left to unlock, which none of them are normal cards anymore. They're only shiny variants, and so it's gonna be very rare for me to pick those cards now. And now when I do get them, the rarity cards, I'm getting doubles of them and not getting the other ones. So it's like super frustrating. I see the pack. I see there's a gold one at the end. I swipe through. I'm like, I cannot wait. What's this one? And it's like, oh God, I already have Pikachu X. This is the third one. Like, I'll get more into it, but it is dominating my life. Pokemon in general has started dominating my life again. I've become very addicted to just I mean, I always have been. Everyone likes Pokemon. I think. I think our generation, especially because we were raised with Pokemon Red and Blue, and then the people afterwards, Ruby, Emerald, Gold, Silver, so on and so forth. But I've been playing this TCG game every day for who knows how many hours. I've been jumping into the battles. They just had a new event battle where you can win an exclusive Venusaur, I think, or something like that. So I've been trying that. I've been failing at it, but I've been trying every day. I get my 2 or 3 attempts in. I've been opening my packs. I've been like trying to do secondary battle missions so I can get just enough currency to open another pack.
Of course.
I even did the 2-week trial of the premium pass, cut it off just in time to not pay, but now I'm like itching to go back because I want another pack a day. I'm very addicted. I can't. I'm at that point where I just like, please just drop more cards so I can get that dopamine a little bit. But Pokemon's dominated my thoughts so much that I decided, you know what? I'm going back and I'm going to play Pokemon. We talked about it last week about how it was like baby's first RPG. And so I was like, man, I have such a fond memory of Blue and Red. Does it still hold up? I've played 15 hours of it this week. It still holds up. Pokemon is incredible, man. It's incredible. And I'm surprised how much of it I remember because it's been a very long time since I've played it. But like, I feel like it's not super obvious what cities you should go next, where you would get the next item and all that. And I like, it's almost muscle memory. I'll get to a city, I get to a door, and it's like Team Rocket's blocking it. And I was like, okay, well, I need to get to their base. I gotta beat them. I gotta get the key to get into the elevator. I get to the elevator. I beat Giovanni. Then a Giovanni gets the Silent Scope. I go to the Silent Scope. I go to the Ghost Manor. I beat all of those guys. Then I come back around. I'll beat the fighting dungeon. I'm so close to already finishing, which is crazy. Amazing. And I've only ever played the next generation of Pokemon. And there's like 6 generations of the Pokemon game. I'm wondering if I will be as enamored with it as I am with Red, but I'm now convinced myself, other than the games I'm trying to prep in for our discussions on Game of the Year, which we will talk about very shortly. It's all I do now is think of Pokemon. It's crazy. I saw them. I went to a store for Christmas shopping, and I saw that they sell the physical cards. They still sell trading card decks, and it took everything in me to not start it. I was like, I should do it. What's better? What's
stopping me?
Yeah. What's stopping me? I've got income. You know, what's $7 for a pack? Knowing full well that'll be the ruin of me. I'll spend thousands of dollars. You'll never see me again. I'll start gambling just to fill the addiction. But Pokemon, incredible.
So good.
And I feel like I've missed out. I haven't played those latest ones. I haven't played those after the first 2 generations. I haven't played anything. Like after the one, I could tell you all 150 Pokemon probably, or 151. I don't know if I know the next generation at all. I might know the starting Pokemon. That's it. And so I'm very excited to continue into it. I'm sure at some point I'll just stop. I can't play the next 600 hours of video gaming can't be dedicated just to Pokemon. But right now I am very addicted. I'm very, very excited to play some more.
Uno, I have so many fond memories of being a kid with my Game Boy Pocket, and I would stay over at a friend's house, and we would stay up until 5 or 6 in the morning. And we had a guide where one of my favorite things to do was run in an area and hope to get like a random encounter. Like it's really rare and tough in the forest section in the beginning to find a Pikachu in Pokemon Red. So I would just run over and over and strengthen my guys and just hope that I can find this rare Pikachu. It's so addicting. Pokemon is so much fun to this day.
And to be truthfully honest, I'm pretty sure I could say this because I think emulation you're allowed to if you own the cartridges. I own Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. I'm playing Red because that's the one I started with when I was a kid.
Me too.
But to be honest, they're all similar except Yellow. You could have Pikachu behind you, and there's some of them that are more difficult to find on some cartridges and more difficult on the other. But what was my point here about Pokemon?
You're talking about owning all the cartridges.
So I own all the cartridges, but I started playing them on emulation on my iPhone because a new emulator just came out called Delta that runs all of the Game Boy.
Yeah.
And honestly, and not to tell everyone to go and download this emulator, but maybe all of you should go and download this emulator. It's very slick. It turns the visual aesthetic on my phone becomes a Game Boy, and I completely forget I'm not playing a Game Boy after a while.
What?
Yeah, and so there's like, it's fun. Like as you press buttons, the vibration function of my phone makes it feel like I'm pressing a button. Like I have a feedback
my God, that's
on it.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I have a feedback on it. So it's not like I'm inserting, but on touching it, it vibrates and it moves my thumb. So it's like I actually have a textural, like I have a physical reaction every time I do an action. So it's very, very neat.
Oh, wow.
And it's made me realize that like Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color like have an insane library of video games that I have so much fond memories of. Like it made me realize like, oh, I'm gonna dust off Golden Sun. I'm gonna play Mother 3 again. I decided, I'm like, well, I have a Yu-Gi-Oh card I've never played on Advance. Maybe I should try this out on there too. Yu-Gi-Oh, after giving it an hour, too complex for old Evil Uno. But okay. But all to say, an incredible emulator. If you're trying to play video games on your phone, Delta might be the one. That's the one I've been using, and it's very, very, very good.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
It is. My suggestion, if you're looking to if this discussion makes you want to play Pokemon Red and you own it, because it's legal if you own it, which I do, go out of your way.
Me too.
Delta's the way to do it on your phone, and I believe it is available on iPhone and Android as well. Other than that, my main gaming has been The Witcher. I played a lot of The Witcher.
Please talk about it.
Yeah, so I don't know how deep it is into it, but there's a lot of things about that game I really enjoy, where one of them is such a simplistic thing, but I'll play the game in like 2 or 3 hour spurts, and I'll walk away from the game. I come back a day later or 2 days later. A thing that I find very neat is as you open the game, it has this like cartoon comic book summary of wherever you are in the game. So if I advance any part of the story, the first 30 seconds of me opening the game is like a voiceover comic book format that tells me exactly where contextually in the story I am. So while I've done a lot of side stuff, and a lot of the side stuff are incredible, but they don't relate much to the main story, and it sometimes will be confusing what my main goal is. That's a great reminder. Almost every time it's like, hey, like, so I just spent some time turning a village of pigs back into human beings. I
remember that mission. Yeah.
I went on, I fought werewolves, I fought bogs, I fought this, I made a guy kiss this evil dead spirit to bring her back from the curse, but in the end he died. Like I did a lot of side stuff. And I will say, you mentioned it, everyone I ever talked to has mentioned it. The side content is incredible.
It's the best.
It's so good. And while I had a really hard time in the first hour of the game because it felt I was playing a tutorial and it felt like a tutorial, and to me that never feels fun because it never is.
Yeah.
Once I got into it, it really makes me feel kind of like Red Dead, where I'm on a horse. I start in one direction, but like as I go in that direction, I know there's a settlement there. And while the settlement might not be my mission, I know that if I go in that settlement, there's gotta be something. There's things everywhere on this map. You divert in any path. If there's a single building there and you're like, oh, that can't be anything. Nope, there's either an armor set in there, or it's the location for a mission, or it's going there, you'll have a unique manuscript that'll tell you about a specific beast. So like you're really, really rewarded for finding little pieces in the game.
And Uno, very quickly, first of all, completely agree with everything that you said. But again, the main story is fantastic.
Yes.
It's a beautiful story with a lot of twists and turns. But I think a huge reason, again, this game is regarded as one of the best open world games of all time, is anywhere that you look on the map, you know there's a story to be found.
Yes.
Exactly what you said. You could walk into this random town like by the water, and it could turn into an hour-long story with all this lore and this character that you just met, and a different spirit or a different monster, or maybe it's gear. But every single corner of that game has something of value where you feel like you don't want to miss out. Like I'll be playing and I'm like, oh, I have to go search this area. I haven't searched yet because I know I'm going to find stuff. It's so brilliantly done, man. And I'm so glad you're enjoying it.
And like for an open world game, we've played so many. I think you and I are the same way. I've played so many of these games that a lot of times I'll get into a mission and I know, oh, this is a reproduction of another mission. This is a following mission, or I have to go there and I have to assassinate something. In this game, almost, and this will seem like a fault of the game, but it is not. The actual actions I do are almost secondary. Like, I don't go into a mission and I can't identify it as like, this is a VIP mission where I help someone get to somewhere. This is an assassination mission. This is about, getting somewhere in a time limit. While some of that might be in that game, almost every mission doesn't feel like a reproduction of another because it's so meaty and actual, like, story between characters and twists and turns and decisions too. I teased about it last week, but like every mission as of yet has given me the option to be a jerk, a good guy, but also sometimes there's a weird middle ground where it's like, this guy's the jerk, but also they're right. So so there's like moral conundrums, and then on top of that, there is no good answer most of the time.
Nope.
Almost everyone in this game is either a slave to a god or a witch or something, and is doing something in their doing. And so if you think they're doing the wrong thing, you want to go against them, and then it ends up being that you screwed a whole entire city out of like lives. It's very neat that I feel like any decision I make has impact on my story now, which I think is a very strong suit of this game, because I never feel like I'm doing a mission just to fill time. It feels like a real mission. No side piece feels like, oh, this is a way for me to grind 3 hours of video game. And I hate to do this and just throw them under the bus, but like Assassin's Creed, often when I play those games, I'll get into a side mission, and to me it seems like a reproduction of another one, and it just feels like a reason to extend this game by 6 hours. Whereas this, I get into a side story, and I'm like, this is a meaty piece of story with actual moral conundrums, and the fighting is almost secondary. Who cares if I kill this water bog? Like, that's not what's important. It's like, I need to kill this water bog so I can find out what happens to this ghost, and then, solve their problem or let them perish. It's very, very good. And the main story, as you said, is incredible. I just got to a point now, because I'm taking this very slowly. I'm doing a lot of side missions.
Good.
Where Siri went through a village where there's a bunch of orphans with like the witches, and I just got the reveal of who the witches are, which is super cool, because like that's another thing that's really neat of this, is like, you're presented with evil characters and talked about them in evil characters, and even like presented with what you think they'll look like. And when they are present, you're like, oh, these are evil characters. These people are terrifying. I made the wrong decision previously, but I'm stuck doing this now. It's great. And we will definitely be talking more about The Witcher, because there's some great news coming around in our second segment. But I am now at that point. This is the sign of a game that I enjoy. I am dreaming of it now, where I'll sleep and I'll be thinking of like fairy tale lore and like how I was like, oh man, it took the werewolf lore, it took the Hansel and Gretel lore. It's very good. If you haven't played The Witcher, I mean, most people have in the last decade.
Right.
It's so good. Go out of your way. Play Witcher 3.
Definitely play it. It's amazing.
But that's all I played for this week. I have put a little bit of time into 1000X Resist. I would like to wait on that and talk about it next week, because it is a very narrative focused game. But I am in the process now of playing the games I think may make my Game of the Year list. And why am I saying that? Because, drumroll please, it's time. On December 23rd, that's right, our Monday episode of December 23rd, going right into Christmas time, It'll be Evil Uno and the Chugs Game of the Year Festival. That's right.
Yes.
All Elite Arcade episode will be dedicated to what our games of the year will be. And we discussed it beforehand, what kind of nominations we would like to have. Well, obviously, we will have Game of the Year.
Of course.
Both of us will tell you our 5 games of the year. If you've listened to this podcast, maybe you have an idea of it, but I'm already telling you now, mine's already changed.
Yeah, mine might change too. Mine might change too.
And just so we're clear, it's got to be games that have come out this year.
Yes.
Or else The Witcher 3 would make that list. I'll tell you right now. We'll do best soundtrack because these boys love our gaming soundtracks. We'll do best graphics, best story, and then we're going to go and be precise. And we're going to say best Xbox game of the year, best PlayStation game of the year, best Nintendo game of the year, best PC game of the year. That's a very large category. And then we'll talk about our 3 most anticipated games for 2025. There are so many. There's still games. Stalker 2 I haven't put time into, and I feel like that Indiana Jones game could be a sleeper hit, and I don't even know, right? And that's out in 1 week. So there's a very good chance this makes it too. But December 23rd, make sure you tune in, hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, wherever you may for our podcast or a video format on youtube.com/AEW Games, because it'll be time for our Game of the Year awards on December 23rd. And we're excited. I'm very excited.
It's a celebration of an amazing year in gaming. 2024 was, again, I know I say this all the time, 2023 felt untouchable. And then 2024 came along, and my God, what a year.
Yeah, I feel like every month a game comes out that I wasn't suspecting to love so much. And then the next month I'm like, well, maybe Elden Ring DLC isn't the greatest game I've ever played. Like every month there's something that comes out. And I'm starting to realize that games are only going to get better.
Absolutely.
Even the lowest bar of a video game now is pretty damn good.
Seriously.
And so I'm very excited. And I know we talked about it, but this is my favorite time. There's 2 times of the year I enjoy. June, when all the trailers come out and we get to hear about video games, and Game of the Year season, because I end up finding out about all the games I didn't get to put time into. So hopefully you will come with us to December 23rd on our podcast, on our YouTube feed, so that we can discuss Game of the Years. And we will, of course, would love to hear yours as well on December 23rd. But that's not all. We've got news coming right up, and it's coming right up after this. And we're back. Welcome back to All Elite Arcade. It is time for your news of the week. But before we talk about the news of the week, we have some news here at AEW. Because are you an AEW insider? Well, get early access to ticket pre-sale, special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. All you got to go to sign up at AEWTix.com. You can get emails about all upcoming events, find out where we're coming, find out what we're selling, find out all the cool deals as well as meetups, all of that in your email. AEWTix.com. We teased it earlier. There's actually some big news that is so topical for me, but also super topical for you because this is one of your games. Witcher 4 is finally entering full-scale production. Very exciting news, which means I don't know how far that means we are because those games are intense. They're big. But
this could mean anything, Uno. Like, are we talking like 2025? I'm thinking it's going to be later than that.
It's gotta be, right? Because they dropped that DLC early in the year. No, last year. They dropped that Cyberpunk DLC last year. So it feels like we're still... They probably wrote a lot of the story stuff. They probably wrote... Maybe even did some of the voice acting or like physical acting stuff. But I feel like there's so much polish left. There's probably a lot left to do. I would love if they told us it was the end of this year, but realistically, I think we are still some years away. But the fact that it's in full scale production means we will get a Witcher 4. And that's not all. They commented a whole lot. They said Witcher 4 will be bigger, better, and greater than Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk. We don't want to go back to Cyberpunk, is what they said. As part of their latest financial result, the CD Projekt said that Project Polaris, which is the first installment in a new trilogy of Witcher games. I am just getting into this Witcher stuff now. The fact that there might be 3 more games is crazy, and I don't know how they can maintain that as far as like quality, because this game is filled with stuff. But I'm very excited to find out. That means we've got the Witcher games for the next 12 years probably.
Yep.
So it's now come out of pre-production and went to full-scale production, which I mean will probably mean all hands on deck, which probably they pulled their people from from Cyberpunk's DLC and probably jumped into full Witcher 4 mode. So CD Projekt Red has currently 400 developers that were working on Witcher 3 or Witcher 4, with a majority of it being 650 people on development staff. So there's like 250 that aren't working on Witcher 4.
Yeah, that's a lot of their crew.
That is a lot of their crew. And then probably now we'll have more. And to be honest, they might even be working on other projects we're not allowed to hear about. So like the way that it's spread out, there might be like a whole team that is being hidden, discussed, possibly working on like the next Cyberpunk or something. They said better, greater, better, bigger, and greater for Witcher 4, but here is straight out of CD Projekt Vice President of Technology's mouth. He says, the next game we do will not be smaller, and it will not be worse. Which, an incredible quote to say.
There we go.
And also on the note of CD Projekt Red, they officially now have sold over 30 million copies of Cyberpunk 2077, which is an insane amount. And to give you an idea, the DLC that came out last year has already sold over 8 million, which is a pretty large amount for a DLC.
Oh my God, yeah.
So very excited for them. I thought, I know we talk well about them all the time. I think Witcher 3 is great.
Unbelievable.
I can't tell you if it's the best game of all time yet, but I'm in the middle of it, and so I'm having a great time. I also thought I loved Cyberpunk, and I really love Phantom Liberty, their DLC. I can't say they can't do wrong, but they're almost as perfect of a developer as it gets in current times.
Yeah, CD Projekt for me, especially after playing The Witcher 3, they're one of those developers where I go, oh, it's a CD Projekt game, it's going to be awesome. Mm-hmm. Like I am at that point with them for sure. And it's cool too to see, because I know we didn't have any issues playing Cyberpunk. I played on Xbox Series X, you played on PlayStation 5, right?
Yeah, correct.
So I know there were some issues for people playing on Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and there were some challenges initially with the launch of Cyberpunk, but for them to get everything fixed and then release this incredible DLC, it's cool to see that they were able to get it to a place where people can, really, really appreciate how good Cyberpunk 2077 is. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of people got pulled back in when the DLC came in for sure, because at that point people understood it was polished, and that DLC did so great that like reviews for it were so incredible. It was on so many Game of the Year lists that I'm sure at the end of last year, a ton of people decided, oh, okay, maybe Cyberpunk's worth trying now. And even like I played it on its initial launch and loved it. I had 1 or 2 issues tops, which is incredible considering so many people had issues on the PS4, Xbox Series S, and even PC wasn't fully optimized at the time. Because it ran so hot. But I decided when the DLC came out that I was going to replay the game from scratch, and that game is still incredible. All the add-ons they did, they changed a lot of the AI for characters at the time. There was a new cop system. Even like the driving was remaneuvered. Like they really put a lot of love into it. And so even the stuff that I was fine with and I thought was good, they retooled to make sure that it is an incredible game. So if you haven't gone out of the way, much like I'm playing Witcher 3, if you haven't played Witcher 3 or Cyberpunk, they're well worth your time, and get excited for Witcher 4.
Yeah, Uno, I actually, to this day, have not played Phantom Liberty.
Ooh.
So, like, I really have to get on it. Because same thing, I loved Cyberpunk when I played it when it first came out. But again, you and many others have said they changed so many different things with this DLC, like quality of life improvements and things like that. But I really, really want to experience the Cyberpunk DLC for sure. I got to get on that.
It's a very good story. The other thing they do incredibly well is the acting in their games is incredible. The voice acting in their games is incredible. In Witcher alone, I keep getting varied accents, varied their own languages, and a lot of very, very well done. But Cyberpunk, I think, is their greatest piece of content when it comes to acting. They have genuine Hollywood actors with Idris Elba in the DLC. They got Keanu Reeves, and then
You're breathtaking.
That's right, man. That was one of. We talked about this a few weeks ago about that day when Final Fantasy VII and Shenmue was announced. The other time I was the most hyped at a game announcement was when Keanu Reeves just walked on stage. Dude, at the time was probably the hottest man in Hollywood because he was doing those John Wick flicks.
Yep.
I'm actually excited to see what Witcher 4 might have because who knows? Maybe that bleeds and they have a big character in there too.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a bold claim. Willem Dafoe is in it.
Oh, there we go.
There
we go. I have I'm very, very curious to see where they go story-wise and with the timeline. I'm very, very interested to see kind of where these games take place within the Witcher world.
Especially if they're doing a trilogy. Like they could theoretically do a completely different character.
Right. Or you could play, I know there were small never mind. I don't
I realized as I was questioning that I was like, I don't know that. I was gonna make a suggestion, but then I also don't know what the game does.
Right.
So yes,
I won't say anything for you.
Please, nobody don't spoil The Witcher 3. I'm so excited. But I'm very excited for this next trilogy. And also they have talked about wanting to make a future Cyberpunk as well. So I feel like we're going to get a lot of that, and they're a big enough studio that we might even get a different IP from them. I would love for them to do a bite-sized game too. On this side, because they make such meaty endeavors. I would love for them to be like, hey, we made a 6-hour survival horror game, and I would be so enamored with it. Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. I'm very excited for CD Projekt Red. They really turned around since Cyberpunk's launch.
Yes.
More news. This one will be very exciting to you. Lies of P, the incredible Pinocchio, Dark Souls-ish game from developer Round 8 Studios. Well, Round 8 Studios has got a lot they're working on because they had already previously announced this, but they have a DLC coming out in 2025. They also pre-announced that they are
Quarter 1 of 2025.
I know, which is very soon. That's in the next 4 months. And also, they've already pre-announced this, but this game did so well that they are making a sequel to the game. No date announced on that one. That might take a little while. But they also just announced a new project for them. So the Round 8 is doing incredible in the next year. A sci-fi survival horror game will be coming out, and it will also be a Souls-like game. Very exciting news. You really enjoyed Lies of P, right?
I absolutely loved Lies of P. Again, it absolutely is a Souls-like at its core. But again, certain things that they did. First of all, the story was so interesting and so fun to kind of unravel and uncover. But again, the difference with the weapons, how you could use different blades and different handles to make the moveset of your weapons do different things, how you had to constantly worry about your durability of your weapon. Also, again, I know it seems like such a common thing, but underrated as far as the enemies moving like puppets. It was perfect.
Yes.
Just the way they moved around. And again, it was creepy. So I'm excited to see these devs make a sci-fi survival horror game because there were definitely aspects of Lies of P that were very, very creepy.
Yeah, there's some of those enemies that are horrifying. Just like
horrifying.
I wouldn't even say it's not even grotesque, but something about them is kind of like the Silicon Valley issue where it's lifelike, but it's not, and it's almost like the movements are too irregular. It like gives me the creeps for sure.
Right, exactly. But yeah, they did an unbelievable job, specifically with Lies of P. Like Lies of P, actually, if you would have told me that From Software developed it, I would have believed you.
Yes.
It is so true to form as far as just an excellent Souls-like adventure in a lot of ways. But yeah, I'm so excited to see what else they do, man, because Lies of P ruled.
I wonder if their sequel,
best Souls-like games I've played.
I wonder if their sequel will also be Pinocchio-based or if they're going to go into more fairy tale stuff.
I'm curious too, because there is an ending. There's a post-credit scene that implies maybe
they're jumping into another story, right? Yeah. So I'm very excited to see. I think we'll have a different setting. Obviously, we'll probably have the same characters, but or the same main character. But I'm very interested to see where this is gonna go. And
very curious as well, Uno, as far as what they're gonna do in this DLC.
Yes,
I know I've seen.
Who knows? Actually,
pictures.
The end of the game could be leading into that DLC as well, which would then mean the next game leads into something completely different as well.
Yeah.
Very excited. And that we don't have to wait very long. It's out in the next 4 months.
Oh,
next
baby.
form.
2025 starting off strong.
Oh my god. There's nothing that makes me happier than when I look at my calendar and I see a game's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah. My whole week's planned around it. Like next week, I'll tell you right now, cannot wait from this Indiana Jones game. Machine Head said this is the largest game they've ever made, including 5 hours of cutscenes in the 30+ hour video game. So I'm very excited to see what the hell it's all about. So yes, great few months coming up for us.
Oh yeah.
And then finally, this is a story that I hold near because I really love this game and I was part of this whole process. But 8 years after its launch, No Man's Sky finally has completed its internal goal of Steam reviews switching to very positive. And to give you an idea of this, when No Man's Sky initially came out, this was 8 years ago. If you were one of the people that was excited for it, you probably did not enjoy its initial launch. It didn't look like the trailers. While it was a vast universe, it didn't have as much content. It was a little janky, and it was kind of soulless. It didn't have like the pizzazz that it has now. 8 years later, I believe 20+ DLC updates, all free by the way, for No Man's Sky. They're finally at a point that all the negative reviews that were flooded into their Steam page 8 years ago, they've won those people over time. And now 80% of all reviews are positive, pushing them from, they had a negative review early on, on to moderate. Now they're into very positive. There's only overwhelmingly positive, which is over 90%, which will take a little while. Just by average sakes, will take a while for them to get there. But the fact that No Man's Sky has turned it around, we talked about CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk, and them finally and making that game better than its launch. No Man's Sky might be the perfect example of a video game that starts off bad and just a developer is not willing to allow it to die, not willing to. They had such a vision with it, and every 3 months I feel like I see a new DLC about to drop. Even now, I just saw a trailer like a few weeks ago of more content. I like to jump into that game once a year, and it feels like a different game almost every time. Not only because there's such a vast universe, but they add so much new content to it.
So I still have not played No Man's Sky. It is a game that I definitely want to try. But again, looking at this story, it just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside because, again, I know the hype for this game was unbelievable. The promotion for No Man's Sky, they were on like late night talk shows. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I remember people being really, really upset. But for the devs to like stick to and believe in this game, update it as much as humanly possible, stick with their community, not just going like, no one likes it, okay, we'll move on. No, they didn't take no for an answer. They were gonna make this game very, very loved by the No Man's Sky community, and they did. So it's just so cool to see that they started off with some speed bumps, and now they've gotten to the point where it's super, super positive. It's awesome. Congrats to the devs.
They went through the full cycle of like negativity in the video game world, which happens every time. It's like everyone gets super excited before the product comes out because, we're the same way. If a trailer comes out, I get hyped as hell. And I just assume the best of it. And then it went through its initial launch where it went terribly. And most games don't survive that. Usually the launch happens and they decide like, that's it. We're moving on to our next project. They're like, no, we understand that we have something here. And within the year, it had already started turning around. And so to see them go from like such a negative initial year, which would be the death of most video games, and instead Hello Games is now created, I wouldn't say a perfect space game because there's so many, but like this is probably the largest space game in the world right now as far as content and as far as size. I don't know if you know this, you can play this infinitely. There's just an insane amount of content in it. And on top of that, they're working on another game entirely. So good for their next game because I feel like people will finally feel like, okay, I can trust these people. I kind of mistrusted them early, but now I feel like they probably have learned their lesson. They know how to make their games proper. And they probably have the funds now to really support the launch on the next time.
Right. Uno, I was going to ask you, is based on you seeing the changes within No Man's Sky, was there one specific thing that you were like, oh, this is huge. This is an absolute game changer.
So initially it was all about exploration, and it was really just a through line to get to the center of the universe. They made 2 or 3 big content pieces that I think changed a ton. You know, they added animals, they added like companions, they changed the space battles to make it a little better, and all of that was great. But they made 3, I think, really changed it. One, they added like a story mode, a really more focused like narrative path rather than just free explore to the center. And then they have like 3 branching ones. There's like a very open-ended one. There's one about getting to the center of the universe that they fleshed out as well. And then there's one that's more of a narrative path. That narrative path, I think, helped a whole lot of people. They also made a content piece that the visual aesthetics of it got changed. When you played the initial game, and I played like 100 hours of the initial launch. I really liked this game, even at launch. I was very addicted to it. But aesthetically, you would go from world to world, and while it was different, you could see there's 6 different biomes that just had some changes to it. They made many updates to that, but the first big one, graphically, you would go to the same biome and the entire fauna was crazier. There was more flying beasts. It's like the trailers you would see would be like, you'd walk on this landscape and you're seeing like flying beasts, you're seeing sandworms, you're seeing like elevated mountains. When the game came out, it was a lot more plain because it wasn't like fleshed out that every world would have stuff. So you would get to a world and it'd be like gray green, there's a little bit of mountains, and you'd see an occasional like crawling beast, and it didn't feel like it was lively. Eventually what they did is that the visual aesthetics of it got more intense, beautiful, brighter, and more vibrant, but then also they populated it with more fauna, different like territories. So like instead of just having like slight dips, they had giant mountains, they have floating islands, they have like full underground tunnels. Like sometimes you could just dig in and find an entire different world in a map. So like, oh wow, they changed that aesthetic. And then they also made a third piece, at least this to me is the third piece that really got me interested. They made a very horror focused one where you could go into space and find abandoned freighters that were invaded by alien species. So like they were more combat focused. You'd go in there, it's kind of like it's kind of like Alien Isolation to some extent, where you're going in there and like it feels creepy. It doesn't feel as vibrant. You're in a dark space, but then like aliens come out, you shoot them, you try to find out what happens on those freighters. So that's cool. That's stuff that came out 5 years ago. So they've released so much more from there. They really expanded on the DLC because before it was really hard to meet someone in the world. Initially, you could get in a world and play multiplayer, but you would only see them as a blip in the map. You couldn't actually physically play with them. Now you could be co-op on stuff. You could create your own bases together. You could both populate the same planet, and even if you're not in each other's game, you could go to their base and see that base. And so they've really expanded it to be way more of a collaborative space. All to say, No Man's Sky is an incredible game. Also, they have VR, which I still haven't done.
Unreal.
Yeah, which I'm sure it must be insane as well. But an incredible game, and very happy for them with the progress they've made, because it must not have been an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And that's it for the news of the week. There's all kinds of other stuff going out there, but those are the big pieces that we were interested in. You know, I hope you're as happy for Project Red and No Man's Sky's group Hello Games as we are, because I want more updates of both of those things. But we're not done for this episode, because right after this, we are going to go into our favorite segment. It's the mailbag time. Right after this.
Now we're back. And now it's time for our favorite segment, the All Elite Arcade Mailbag, brought to you by Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph, memorabilia, or premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. A huge thank you to Upper Deck. And Uno's got a pack here.
I got a pack right. I have a whole Upper Deck box here. Actually, I even have a...
me too.
You know what? They even gave me a cool hat. I might as well wear it.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. I look very cool right now.
You look very cool.
Every pack usually has a nice insert, a nice flashy card. Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe I made this one. I have a few.
Some real good ones.
I got some good ones. I've got Samoa Joe here.
Oh, nice.
We've got the Bang Bang Gang.
There we go. There we go.
My camera's not very good at focusing on these things. Ricky Starks. Look at him. He's
Ricky Starks. There
so
he
jacked. Is. Sammy Guevara.
Beautiful.
Matt Hardy. It's a good pack.
Good pack.
Good pack.
Good pack.
Ignore this hat. Malachi Black. This one's one of my shinies. You see this?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Ooh.
Oh, that does look really cool.
That looks very nice. This one's an all-out match card. This is for...
I haven't seen that.
The Lucha Bros. Cool. This is the first of these kinds I've seen for sure. Available in the more recent packs. Our main man, Excalibur. I didn't even know he had his own card. Look at that.
Look at that.
Big Bill. The biggest man on our roster. Timeless Tony Storm.
There we go.
Red Velvet. She also has a little bit of a sheen here at the bottom. And then
you get a lot of cards in
You get a lot in one pack. And the Hardy Boys.
And the Hardys. Beautiful.
All that available at Upper Deck. Thank you, Upper Deck, for sponsoring.
Yeah. Once again, thank you very much, Upper Deck. But now we are going to jump into our community mailbag. I'm going to get started with the first question. And this is from Porygon 2005.
All right.
And Porygon says, "Hey, Chugs and Uno, love you guys. We love you too. IGN just finished its top 100 best PlayStation games of all time. And I would like to know if you agree with their top 20 picks or if you'd make any changes. I have a feeling Chugs will have a different opinion where Elden Ring, Resident Evil 2, and Witcher 3 are ranked.
Okay.
Thank you, and I look forward to more arcade in 2025. Thank you very much." So, Uno, I think what I'm going to do is I'll go down and I'll read every game in the list, and then we can just discuss it.
Yes, let's do that.
But again, IGN did a top 100, but we're going to read the top 20. So we're going to start with number 20, and that is Silent Hill 2.
Mm-hmm.
Number 19 is Dark Souls. Number 18 is Gran Turismo A-Spec. Number 17 is Persona 4 Golden. Number 16, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. 15, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. 14, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. 13, Elden Ring. 12, The Last of Us Part 2. 11, Resident Evil 2 in 2018, so the remake.
Yep.
Number 10, Baldur's Gate 3. Number 9, Grand Theft Auto 5/Online. Number 8, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Number 7, Red Dead Redemption 2. Number 6, Final Fantasy 7. Number 5, The Last of Us. Number 4, Shadow of the Colossus. And the top 3, number 3 is Bloodborne.
Ooh.
Number 2 is God of War 2018. And number 1 is Metal Gear Solid. That's a very solid list.
That's an incredible list.
Very solid list.
I have some arguments on it, but I will say, as far as 20 games that represent PlayStation, and there's some third-party games in there, but you can't omit them because they're the strongest games of their generation. It's a really good list.
Very good list.
My first comment, though, is I'm actually quite surprised that Shadow of the Colossus is highly ranked. Incredible game. Don't get me wrong. I think it's, especially the remake, it is really, really good. But the fact that it's toppled over Red Dead, Final Fantasy VII, The Last of Us, which a lot of people think is the greatest game of all time.
Yeah.
Elden Ring. I'm very surprised that Shadow of the Colossus made it so high. But people are allowed their opinions. I still think it would make a top 20 of PlayStation as well. Going through this, the other thing that questions me is I've never heard of Gran Turismo A-Spec.
I have not played that either. I know Gran Turismo, of course.
Yeah, same. I thought the last one was Sport.
Yeah.
And then the last one I remember that was the big hit was the Gran Turismo 3 on PlayStation 1.
Right.
So I don't know what
I remember
is.
The first Gran Turismo was so mind-blowing.
Yes.
Like graphically, I remember that being so impressive. So cool. But yeah, I also have not heard of that specific Gran Turismo game. You know what though, too, is I look at this list, and again, stuff like Final Fantasy VII to me deserves to be in the top 5.
Yes.
Metal Gear Solid is amazing, and I don't know if I'd make it my number 1, but I also think it deserves to be there. I mean, that game was so mind-blowing at the time, especially for story-driven adventures in gaming. So this is a very, very solid list. Very, very solid list. I would definitely move The Witcher 3 much higher.
I mean, I'm only a little bit into it, and I can already tell, like, if this keeps the same quality, it's in Red Dead Redemption category for me.
Yes.
I looking at it, I feel like that needs to get bumped up a little bit. Elden Ring feels like it's too low on that list. Personally. Yeah. And like, while Bloodborne is my personal favorite of the smaller non-open world games, I'm surprised it's so far ahead from Elden Ring.
Yeah. Bloodborne is one of the most loved PlayStation IPs of all time. Yes. I mean, people are constantly begging for another Bloodborne or Bloodborne 2 or Bloodborne on PC. Mm-hmm. So
bold prediction,
it's very, very loved.
Bold prediction, their next one's Bloodborne 2.
That would be
my bold prediction.
Can you imagine, Uno? The internet would break.
Yeah,
the internet would break.
What do you follow Elden Ring with? Well, you just give them what they want. Give them Bloodborne 2. Yeah.
Right, a smaller game. You don't have to make this giant open world game. Just make, come on, From Software. Yeah. Bloodborne 2, please. Yeah. Please.
Yeah, hey.
We beg you.
I'm handing you this gift. It's so easy. Just go for it.
Once again, great list. Really, really good list, I think, from IGN.
And I've played all these except for Gran Turismo. And then Persona 4 Golden, I have not played. I've played Persona 5, but I hear that one is incredible as well.
Yes, I have played quite a bit of Persona 4 Golden on my PlayStation Vita. I never beat it, but for a long time I was playing that game. It was really good. That's actually my only Persona game experience.
I feel like that was a lot of people's until like 5 came out, and I think brought a new fandom entirely to it because it was a console game. But I feel like 4 is, I mean, it's on this list, so obviously I think 4 is the preferred one for everyone. But I feel like Persona 4 had so many like adult topics that people were like, this is a game like no other. Because and spoiler, but it has a very, very adult suicide theme through the game. That is like, there's a lot of emotional moments in it. I've never played it, but I've read about it a whole lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised it's on there. And it was by far the game to play on the Vita, other than the Final Fantasy VII. That was a PSP.
And that was the PSP.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. You're right. The Persona 4 Golden was the killer app on the Vita for sure.
So great list. Once again, I don't know if Metal Gear Solid is the game, but I also don't know what the game would be.
Yeah, it deserves to be there.
Yes.
It definitely deserves to be there. But the cool thing for me too, when I look through this list and we compare like where we would move them, like for example, like The Witcher 3 will be in every single top 5 ever. But I look at this list and man, Sony has had some incredible franchises.
Oh my God.
Huh?
Yes.
God.
And this will be crazy, but like Astrobot's not on this, and that's another insane franchise they have. They have so many, truthfully.
Right.
And they're like, I can't believe this far in they're so consistent with their first person IP or their
first party IPs.
First party, not first person. I feel like if you told me a sequel to any of these games, the bar is so high that it has to be incredible. And Sony's delivered almost every single time one of them comes out. So great list. Let us know down below in our comments, youtube.com/AEW Games, if you agree with this list and what would you change on there.
But Porygon, again, thank you very much for the question. Thank you. And we only have one more question today.
Only one more. It's the Christmas season. This one is from Tate, and he says, hey guys, Christmas is coming up. And with the cashola that I get every year from my parents and grandparents, that's money, by the way, I've decided to invest in a streaming setup to begin my content creating journey. What essential tech do you guys recommend I buy, and any tips you would give to a first-time content creator? Great question, Tate. I think best way is maybe to run through our different setups, because I think I have 2 setups for streaming. I have a home-based setup, and then most of my streaming nowadays, including the podcast, is done on the road with a travel kit. What's your setup like? What do you have as first time Twitch streaming recommendations?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, of course, obviously, you're going to need things like a PC.
Yes.
You're going to need a capture card if you do decide to play from console. But like as far as the actual things for streaming itself, a webcam is incredibly important. Not everyone likes to be on camera, but I think at some point it's definitely a good idea to invest in one. Obviously, a microphone. And the nice thing too, there's so many different options now, where you don't have to spend an arm and a leg necessarily to get like enough equipment to be able to stream.
Yes.
I think lighting is very, very important as well, obviously. So getting yourself some key lights, maybe a green screen if you would like to do that.
Yes.
Obviously getting everything set up with Streamlabs OBS, but I also, which you can use other platforms, but I use Streamlabs OBS. But I think the other important thing that was asked here as far as tips for a first-time content creator, I do have two things that I think are very important. And I'm still learning all the time about content creation and streaming on Twitch and things like that. But I think, number one, I think it's so important to be yourself on stream. I think sometimes people feel like they need to act a certain way to maybe gain attention or get viewership. And if you are a really like rowdy, active person, be rowdy and active on stream. If you're more calm and quiet, you can be calm and quiet. Of course, you have to discuss and talk to your chat and things like that. But I think being yourself is important. And then number two, I know this seems like, of course, but play games that you want to play. Like if you have, when you're enthusiastic about it, like that draws people in. I absolutely love every single game that I'm playing on stream right now. And I think that shines through. So I think it's really, really important to play the games that you want to play. Streaming should be fun. And again, that enthusiasm is very contagious. So that's some advice, Tate, in my opinion.
To roll on to your advice, of course, lighting is great. You can get a very inexpensive ring light that is at the very bottom will light up your face, which is what you want. If you want to have a green screen, there's a lot of formats you can get it. Elgato is a good answer for camera, microphone, and green screen. You can get all of that stuff through them, including capture card. That's what my capture card is for my consoles. They do 60 frames per second. There's no delay. It's very, very nice. But if that is the case, if you want to do a green screen, I would tell you to improve the lighting, because the better the lighting, the better you can do with a green screen. And on microphones, like I said, Elgato, you could do it as well. But Blue Yeti is super inexpensive as well. You can get them for less than $150 nowadays, and they're very good. I've traveled with mine everywhere. It's been through hell, and it still works. It's what I record our podcast on, and a lot of our Twitch stream content.
Yeah, Uno, I've had my Blue Yeti for 5 years.
Same.
It's the exact same one, and like you said, they last forever. It works great, and it's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah, and I've tried the higher models from other companies, and while they were good, they never seem to last very long. They damage very easily. This stuff seems very sturdy, and it's also it's your first time streaming. Two pieces of advice. I'll play off what Chugs said. Play stuff you want to, because you're probably gonna want to think like, oh, I should play something current because that's what people are gonna watch. The reality of it is people will watch you when you are happy about what you're doing. If you are into what you are doing, then that energy transfers over and people are invested in it. If you're playing something strictly for the views, it's not going to work. Take it from someone who's done this now for a very long time. I thought that was the approach. The approach is not that. If you wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to play Pokemon Red, guess what? There's an audience that wants to see you be happy playing Pokemon Red. And then a secondary thing on the subject of your streaming and such, steady schedules. If you want to start getting to it, you don't have to do this, but if this is something you want to really, really do, Chugs is a great example of this. People know he's going to stream most of the week at a certain time. Maybe not exactly the same time, but it's around that ballpark. And so people know that they can gravitate to that time. If that's not something you can do, that's fine. Like, I'm not that way. I can't possibly make a schedule. I could only announce, I'm doing this in an hour. See you soon. But if you want growth from this, having a steady schedule, having it part of a curriculum so that people can expect it, will definitely help you progress and build a fandom. And also, to me, when I was doing it that way, it was my preferred way, because I knew every day for this 4-hour chunk, I'm going to be happy. I'll be doing something I want to do. So hopefully those are good recommendations to you. Go out there, enjoy yourself. Seriously.
Yes.
And and one last thing on as far as you could do OBS, you can do Streamlab OBS, and you do XSplit. If this is your first time with a broadcasting program, my suggestion is do Streamlab OBS. It's almost completely contained in one program. You don't have to fandangle and finick with it too much. Whereas the other ones have more of a learning curve to them. So I would really recommend Streamlab OBS. And hey, best of luck. I hope you have an incredible time streaming, Tate. And thank you so much for your question. You can get your questions answered. Go to tbs.com/arcade mailbag and send us your questions if you are in the United States of America. That is it for this week's episode. Be back next week on Monday. We'll have a brand new episode of All Elite Arcade. And do put it on your calendar, December 23rd. We're talking games of the year right here. Myself and Chugs will be disclosing our top 5 games of the year, as well as other categories. Chugs, I know you're on Twitch this week.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them all about it.
Twitch.tv/the Chugs. Once again, going through that 5-game cycle. We're going to be playing The Witcher 3, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, Dark Souls 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, and of course, the original Silent Hill 2. So a little bit of everything for everybody, all different genres of games. Please come join me, twitch.tv/the Chugs.
And I'm getting a real itch to play Simpsons Hit and Run. It happens once every year where I just really want to play it. So twitch.tv/eviluno. I'm probably going to go back and beat that game in its entirety all over again. I'm a big Simpsons fan. And then maybe I'll do what I've always wanted to do and just play all the old Simpsons games that are ridiculously hard when I was a kid. And I'm really curious to see if I could do any form of progress in them now as an adult. So go to twitch.tv/eviluno. That's where you can find me Twitch streaming this week. That's it for this week's episode of All Elite Arcade. We will be back next Monday. Thank you so much for your listen, and bye-bye.